jump in the water with them and float. Hold their hand and float with them. That's the best place to start. This is one of those questions like, how long is a piece of string? What are the most common misconceptions you've encountered about PDA and how do you counter them? I don't know if it's good for my well-being to try and counter every misconception. I think by sharing our stories and sharing our personal experiences, that's more powerful than arguing with every detail that we know is inaccurate. One of the most obvious ones for me is just the name itself, pathological demand avoidance. We have that name because psychological sciences, psychiatry, notices in children the most predominant behaviour that comes with any form of divergence or way of being. And it just so happens that in childhood, demand avoidance is what we see most when somebody has a PDA profile. And it's not lost on me that I'm autistic, so I've gone through the DSM and had a really good look for fun. Panic disorder is actually more closely related to PDA than demand avoidance is fitting. The difference is when we have something that adults are diagnosed with, it's about their experience and not their behaviour. So if we think about a lot of the forms of neurodivergence in adulthood or things that we call disorders like panic disorder, we don't say panic disorder when we're speaking about children. We talk about their behaviour. We say panic disorder when we're talking about adults because we're talking about their experience. They're almost the same thing, PDA and panic disorder. So we know that when a person with PDA is having a meltdown, they're actually having a panic attack. It's about panic and chronic distress. Calling it PDA or demand avoidance, I think that's so misleading because so many people just look for demand avoidance when it's so much more than that. We're having these discussions around should PDA be a whole other diagnosis. A lot of people will say, I don't think you have to be autistic to be PDA. I'm ADHD and I identify with PDA. We all identify differently, but we all also interpret things differently when we learn about them. There are many forms of demand avoidance. For me, I don't feel like I'm autistic with an add-on of PDA. I feel like I'm PDA autistic. And that's just my experience. And it's so much more than demand avoidance. Oh gosh, it's so much more. We're seeing a different profile in childhood than adulthood because children develop and grow into adults. So that's probably the big one for me, that it's just about demand avoidance, pathological demand avoidance. It's like instead of they're autistic, oh, they have pathological sensory divergence. And we know that's just one teeny tiny little part of a whole human being, but it might be the thing we notice the most.